Today, we have a very interesting person. He's a former military guy, and he's going to talk about transitioning from military life to civilian life. In addition, we're going to talk about billions of universes where maybe we've had alien interactions. Stay tuned. Hey, big dog. How you doing?
Okay. Just keep it busy. You too.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. How many times you been on the podcast?
Oh my God. I don't know.
Too many, right?
Maybe people getting kind of bored with me. Maybe.
No, I don't think so. I don't care. I'm not getting bored, and that's the most important thing. You understand what I'm saying? This is easier than me driving 200 miles.
Yeah, exactly.
LA traffic. So you know what? What the hell? This is a conversation between you and I. And if it happens to interest other people, fantastic. Otherwise, welcome back once again.
No, thank you. Yeah, always an honor and joy to be here.
Hey, you know what? We've just changed our set. So the next time that you see this, it's going to be a different introduction. So you're like, I think, a second or third person that's come onto the new set.
Wow, I see.
Yeah. Anyway, Tom, every time I've had you on, you're a very interesting person because you're worldly. And, we talk about a lot of stuff.
Yes.
The first thing that I want to talk about is I know recently that you just got yourself a new penis extension. And I don't know if you know what I'm referring, but by the look on your face, it doesn't look like you know what the hell where I'm going with this thing.
No.
Okay. You just got yourself, and you told me this, a Corvette.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So I'm sure there's a group of people. How old are you now, Tom? I'm going to be a critic, by the way. I'm playing devil's advocate, not a critic. Devil's advocate. How old are you? And don't lie.
How old am I now?
Yeah, and don't lie.
73.
73. Now, there's a group of people out there going to say that car that you're driving is a penis extension. I mean,
yes.
Yes. And why did you get a Corvette? I mean, I'm envious. I will tell you that right now. But what made you decide to get a Corvette?
Okay. Well, a couple of things, my kids are growing up. I'm single now, not serious with anybody. And it makes a much better girlfriend. Doesn't argue, doesn't debate. You just got to feed it, And I figured, the last few years of my life, I'd like to have something I enjoy,
Do you know something that I don't? Are you not telling us something about the last few years? You said few years. How in the hell do you think it's going to be? I mean, we don't know when we're going to pass on.
Yes, I know.
But you seem to be pretty vital and virile and all that good shit. But I know the point that you're making. You're thinking, what the hell? Why not? Right?
Yes, exactly.
Hey, seriously, how much do you enjoy driving that bitch?
Oh, I love it. It just it makes driving a real joy.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to ever get tired of it?
Yeah.
Then what? Plane?
Retire?
What are you going to do next? I mean, once you get tired of this girlfriend, what are you going to do next?
I don't know. She's pretty nice. It goes anywhere I would like to go. You just got to feed her,
Especially now with the gas the way it is, you got to feed her a lot. Huh?
Right? Yeah. That'd make it challenging.
You can't possibly worry about driving, 35 or 40 miles an hour because that defeats the whole purpose.
Yes.
I did I rented a Ferrari one time.
Yeah.
With my partner. We celebrated a hit that we had with one of our products. So we decided to go rent this damn thing. I got to tell you something, Tom. To this day, it's the best $1,000 I've ever spent for 24 hours. It was amazing. Unbelievable.
It is so much fun.
And the thing about it is, I'm assuming with the Corvette the same way, the guy told us that took us around the parking lot. He gave us this demo that was scary as hell. I mean, you get in a car and he just floored it like around the block.
Yeah.
And we came back around, you're constantly, your head's up against the back because he was going, And he gets around and he parks it and he said, that's the way you drive this.
Yes.
That's the way you drive this, because the harder that you drive it, the better that it performs because of the ground effects that it has.
Yes.
Does your Corvette have some of that profile, the ground effects?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's 460 horse, 427 engine, and C7, and it's 7 manual shift, but 7 speeds. So you can't even get out of town out of fourth gear. You got to get on a freeway.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's so fast. Oh my God! You step on the gas, and it's like being in an F-16. It just, you feel the G's just pushes you back in the seat.
Yeah. I mean, that Ferrari was it blew my mind. Do
know.
you get people rolling up alongside you that they want to race?
There's a few, but just ignore most of them. I mean, why?
Well, I know the reason why I'm asking you, because there were so many. When we were in that Ferrari, so many people came up on our side, beside us, and they wanted to race.
I know.
And we couldn't turn them down, and we blew them all away.
Yes.
And it's like, when you're going 110 miles an hour on the freeway, that you shouldn't be doing that, but you're saying fuck it at the time. I know. I want to go 120 because it feels like I'm going 60.
Yeah, I know. You go 120 and it feels like you're going 65.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's so fast. Yeah.
Another good experience that I have with my car, I don't know if you've had that experience, is we stopped off to get gasoline, because we were just, the only time we got out of the car was to have lunch or put gas in the car, right? And so we pull up to this gas station. About that time, another car had pulled up, and there's 2 guys and a girl in the car. They were pulling up to use the restroom of that gas station that we were at.
Right.
That girl saw our Ferrari, and we could hear him, and she flat out said, "I don't want to be with you guys anymore. I want to be with them." Wow, powerful.
I know.
Who needs good looks?
Exactly.
And now I understand.
Yes.
They
love that. But the only thing, it attracts more materialistic women,
Are there such a thing as a materialistic woman? I didn't.
I've heard theories about it.
Theories. Well, anyway, listen, I'm really happy for you. I know you've earned it. You've done a lot of stuff in your life, and this is just going to be another experience that you'll never forget, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'll be great. I had no intentions of getting it, but I have a good friend of mine has a connection, many dealerships, and it was right there when I pulled up to have my other car had some work on it. And he said, "Hey, well, let's see how far you get." And all these barriers just kept falling down.
Yeah.
And it worked out. It's just amazing, like a destiny almost,
I'm not that kind of person that believes in stuff like that necessarily, but yet stuff has done that to me, where it's kind of all these weird coincidences, and it's stuff that all of a sudden, where the barrier was before, is no longer there. It's there, but it gets wiped out for whatever reason, and that's kind of sounds like what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
And it is in that case almost meant to be.
I know. I had no intentions. It's just everything worked out just perfectly. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Do you look forward to getting up in the morning to start that baby?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to just get in it, and it's got adjustment on it where you can. There's a dial on the console. You can put track. You can put economy, which gets better mileage, and you can put sport, and it changes the sound of the muffler.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's just amazing.
So, like in your best selection, like the economy, so are you now getting like 4.5 miles an hour, miles to the gallon, compared to your sport where you're getting like 1.5?
It's not that much difference, but I noticed subtle things, like you keep it whatever gear you're in between 12 and 1500 RPMs.
Yeah,
and that's very efficient. And it gets on a highway. It still gets over 20 some miles to the gallon, 21, 24.
Really?
But then in the city, more 15 to 18.
That's still good. That's still really good. For a high performance car.
What's that?
I said that's still really good for a high performance car like that.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's not a brand new one. The new ones are like 125,000, the mid-engine one. But anything after 215, the engines are so efficient, so economical nowadays. I mean, look at the V6s are just as powerful as the V8s in the old days.
Yeah. It's kind of funny when I was driving that Ferrari. Is like this car. I don't know how much that car cost at the time. This has probably been around, close to 30 years ago when we did this. But I think it had to be over 100,000. But I just found it really interesting that car over 100,000 didn't have much leg room, didn't have much headroom, and the radio was shitty. But it was like the best ride of my life.
Everything else makes up for it.
It really does. Anyway, I wanted to talk about that before we get on to the.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yes, sir. I always have been fascinated when you've come on. You've talked about UFOs.
Yes.
And I want to go ahead. There's been a lot of stuff that seems like that's happened since you and I had the conversation on our last podcast. So tell me what's going on with the UFOs and what kind of revelations have there been since we talked last?
Okay. Number one, last year, a bunch of people sued the government through the Declaration of Information Act. So the Pentagon had to release all their records on the jet pilots who had sightings, anything that happened. So, God, there's been thousands of reports they released. They had to, make it available to the public, number one. And you probably know just a few weeks ago, even Congress had a meeting specifically about UFOs and what's happening with them and what they're going to do and all that stuff. And, the problem, they're taking it more like a threat. The first thing is defense. Which is probably a good idea just to be aware of that, an attack that way. But, they've been around for, thousands and thousands of years and integrated with human societies, ancient civilizations, everything for thousands of years, So, the public and the government, everything's becoming much more open about it now. And, I think there's a reason because, look at the war in Ukraine and Russia and all these things coming to a peak in the world. And that concerns them, extraterrestrials too, because it affects the solar system, the magnetic field affects part of the universe, what happens over here, for one.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. When our astronauts are going up into space, is that where the terrestrial, you call them terrestrials or extraterrestrials? So what's the proper term?
Extraterrestrials.
Extraterrestrials. Is that where they reside? Is that where they live? Is up in space?
Yeah, most of them. But there's theories that there's some that live in the Earth. And even there's been so many sightings in Antarctica, so many UFO sightings from ships and going into the ocean and out, and that they could have a number of UFO hidden bases, where they reside over here. And, there's a lot of theories. What they're doing is using certain minerals here that we have, even experimenting with hybrids and cloning and genes and chromosomes, all that kind of stuff too, So, there's theories that there's over 36 different species of aliens coming here.
So let me ask you this. Is this kind of like the God effect? I'm really neutral about all this stuff, but I'm just asking the question, why is it that they've been around so long? And why is it that there's sightings, but that doesn't seem, unless I'm not in tune with all this very much, but why isn't there any concrete evidence and that we see these? Are these a human, the extraterrestrial, is that a human being or what is it exactly?
Well, even Carl Sagan said there's billions of universes, billions of galaxies, not millions, but billions, and how can we not fathom there's any other type of life form and whatever form they are? we don't really know. I mean, they've been depicted like the Greys, the ones you see in movies mostly,
Yeah.
and then some have been, reptilian ones, that look like a reptile, or and then some could be shape shifters, and they can change their shape. And some have been look like even the octopuses, the ones in the ocean. I mean, there's been every form. But I mean, look at you. We look at whales and dolphins, how intelligent they are,
Yeah.
and there's theories that their souls came from a different universe here too. So, I mean, as far as proof, I think there's tons of information proof. But like any person, you'd have to get into it and see all the information, all the reports from credible jet pilots and and highly intelligent people. There's more than enough proof. And but it's just, you have to study that like anything else. Anybody that doesn't know anything about bodybuilding, and they think, oh, that won't build muscle, that won't do this, that'll hurt you, whatever. They have all these misconceptions about everything because they have a limited knowledge about the topic,
Right.
If you get in and you study any topic like spirits, ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, I mean, there's so much information there, it's just overwhelmed. And I had a friend of mine ask me, well, why don't they just land on the White House lawn,
Yeah.
and present themselves? I mean, what for? What, I mean, do they even care? What advantage is that going to do?
Yeah.
For
Now
them?
this portrayal of them, and maybe this is just for the movies, but this portrayal that they're like in saucers of some kind, is that just for the movies, or is that actual?
That's partially true. Some are more disc, and some are triangular. Some look like a long cigar. There's every different shape possible, because their propulsion system doesn't really matter on aerodynamics through the air, because somehow they have some kind of an anti-gravity machine where they can pop in the universe and pop out through regulating the protons or something somehow, and they can just disappear. It's just not like they accelerate from 0 to 5,000. It's like they just boom, just disappear and go to another dimension or something, or use a wormhole or some kind of vortex. The technology is just, they could be thousands of years ahead of us technologically.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's hard to wrap my mind around that. You know what I mean? It's so out there.
Yeah.
That it's just very difficult to, what kind of language do they speak? And when these pilots are seeing something, what is it exactly that they're seeing? Is it somebody rolling up alongside them and like, hey, what's going on, buddy? And then poof, they're gone, or what? What are pilots claiming that they're seeing as a sighting?
Number one, as far as communicating, most of the people that have high sightings and stuff, they communicate more telepathically. And they just get thoughts in their head, what the alien is saying or asking or intentions are, And, it's interesting, like what I studied, aliens are almost like human beings. There's like low-level ones, very vicious ones, and there's very high-level ones, like more angelic too. Mm-hmm. Just like different races, different personalities, different people, or different mentalities. I mean, I noticed that with aliens themselves, because like these grays, they're more like the ones they depict in film. They're more like insects. They have a command force, like some command force is controlling them, and they're more like robots, and don't have too much feelings and stuff, from different reports. Then you get these reptilian ones that have been around for years. They're supposed to be very vicious and very, very negative, and then there's another type called Andromedons. They're more like angels overseeing the planet, and like high-level spirits and entities, So it's all depends what their mentality and their personal purpose is.
But have any human beings encountered them in a way like what you're saying? You have some of these that are considered vicious. Have there been any encounters with somebody being attacked by one of these, or the extraterrestrial or the alien defending themselves? Has there been anything like that that anybody's talked about or had an account of?
Well, for example, there's been so many books on abductions. I mean, there's been not just hundreds, thousands of abductions of humans, and some have been more positive, a lot have been negative. And, the other thing, when you have an encounter with the UFO or whatever, it's, they have it's almost like they're robots. They have their mission and their purpose. They don't care about us at all up to a certain point. So they want to complete their mission. And a lot of things around UFOs are, there's a lot of radiation. So you've got to be very careful so you don't get infected that way, in an encounter. And then there's been, there's been a lot of attacks from these reptilians, supposedly. But a lot of that stuff with the attacks, they can't really prove it, because look, we have 100,000 people disappear every year in all the state parks and forests, and then another 100,000 that disappear from the cities. So many people every year are disappearing, and nobody knows what the hell happens to them,
So why is it that if that's the case, if they're abducting people, why are they doing that? If they don't really care about us, why are they bothering? Are they doing that because they want to study human nature, or what is that, do you think?
Yes, I think so. See, here's another theory, is that they're more like programmed in a way. And even though they have this high technology, but in a way they don't have the spiritual consciousness like we do. Because you think about it, like, technology has not that much to do with spiritual consciousness, God. So I've heard a theory that they're studying us. What is that, for one?
Yeah.
And the other thing, Leo, there's even theories like that we were created by aliens in the first place, and that's why they monitor us the whole time. There's a theory that they created dinosaurs. I'm saying theories,
Yeah.
And then they got like the asteroid that killed all the dinosaurs, 65 million years ago, right?
Yeah.
There's a theory that it just wasn't by chance, that the aliens did that on purpose. They got tired of that, and they're too vicious and too radical, and they just wiped them out.
Yeah.
And, from my studies, everybody thinks we go back ancient Egypt or Greece or something, 5,000, 10,000 years. I mean, there's so many ruins around the planet that are 12, 13,000 years old. And then there's evidence there was a huge flood, a global cataclysm, a huge flood. And then there was like stories of Lemuria, Oceanus, and Atlantis and stuff. There's theories that our civilization through hundreds of thousands of years has built up and been destroyed, and built up and destroyed, and many, many times, not just recent history. Yeah. And I just try to keep my mind open to that,
Yeah. I some philosophy, I've gotten into that, and they talk about what were rivers are now, are they evolve into mountains, and kind of, it goes like that. That's, you hear different philosophies about that. Is that kind of what you're talking about right now?
Yes, exactly. I mean, for example, they can't prove it yet, but they say, all these different theories where Atlantis was, right? In the Mediterranean, in Atlantic, this and that, and Plato said beyond Straits of Gibraltar and stuff. But they found a place, it's called the Eye of the Sahara in northwestern Africa. And you think about it, with Platonic drift and the oceans through 1,000 years have risen and then lowered, risen, lowered all the time.
Yeah.
And supposedly there's the rings, like the channels in this Eye of the Sahara, that was more covered with ocean. West Africa originally for thousands of years, and then some flood or global cataclysm covered it up and wiped it out. And there's other things. They find a lot of there's stories of these blue, almost like turquoise rocks that was close to Atlanta, and they had an abundance of elephants. And in that same area in Sahara, they found thousands of elephant bones out in the desert, buried in the sand. And and then when they take pictures of it as satellite, it looks like those rings and channels exactly. What's the impression from the satellite photos that it was there,
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. Like,
have you thought about the idea that it's possible that we have actually, and we don't know it, that we've actually been next to an alien? I mean, it seems to me that anything's
there's
possible.
theories that there's a lot of them right with us, and there's hybrids. They've interbred with humans. And I've heard human race has been interbred with different hybrids and races and stuff like 33 times,
Yeah.
and our chromosomes aren't just human, look at one time, they say, a lot of scientists say, like, well, Cro-Magnon man evolved from Neanderthal man. But they existed. Nowadays they existed at the same time, and they're two different species completely.
Yeah.
And why is it that Neanderthal man was built to survive? They were powerful, strong. They were covered, more hair. So they were built for the weather and so incredibly strong. It would be logical that they would survive and not die out. And Cro-Magnon man would be the one that would die, because no hair, they're not built for survival. Yeah. Something genetically changed in us, whether it happened, evolution, or they had something to do with it.
Yeah. I know our government, I was told one time by actually somebody that was in the military, they were in the special forces, and they said, the government only tells us the things that we want to hear or need to hear, but that's about it. You're kind of like, we're on a need to know basis, and they even said, they go, you probably don't want to know everything that's going on in this universe that we're in right now, which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of eerie a little bit. It
is.
But
how honest they are,
Yeah. Anyway, I just, I wanted to get into that side of it again, because I know every time we've come on, you keep talking about that. And why do you think that there's so much hesitation for the government wanting to share anything like this? Are they afraid that we're going to get spooked or something, or what is it?
Well, I think a lot could be, security wise too, because there's, Area 51. There's theories that we have through the years, like 9 different crashed UFOs, and we're re-engineering them, there's theories that even Hitler had a crashed UFO and had scientists studying it. And Russia has a few countries have crashed UFOs. Sometimes something happens,
Is it these crashed UFOs, is it something tangible? Can they touch it?
Yes. Look at, if you go back to 1947, the Roswell incident in New Mexico. There was a crashed UFO there, and on his farmer's ranch, and he ran out he saw it, and the neighbors came, and then of course the military came in. They picked the thing up on a truck, and there was even some alien bodies. I think there's theories that 4 or 5 of them, and one survived a little bit, but it died a few days later. And there's a woman, a nurse, who studied the alien, and on her deathbed she confessed that this really happened. And then, right after it happened, they put it out, flying saucer, and all of a sudden they changed their story, and it was a weather balloon. And then they try to cover everything up. And for example, if Russia or some China knows we have a crashed UFO in engineering, they're going to have, their spies are so integrated in our companies, corporations, everything. They want to get information on it, But then, it's funny, Leo, there's another theory that all these UFO movies that have happened, that in a way our government is slowly wanting us to believe there are UFOs and accept it for some reason too. I've heard that as well.
Interesting. Seems like there's so much unknown with all this.
I know.
It's really, it's interesting and it's fascinating, but it's just, I don't know. It's just like anything else. It's like, why don't you just show us who you are and let's have a conversation or something, or discussion about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how we think logically, but they're so beyond us technologically. I try to answer that myself and try to think, what are they thinking? What is and then they don't really care to commit. They can do anything they want.
Yeah.
Look at, fighter jets have tried to shoot them before and outrun them. It's impossible. It's just, their technology is just hard.
It's hard.
Thousands of years.
It's hard to imagine that they're that far ahead.
Yeah, I know it. I know.
Whew. It makes me just think of, where does this all begin? And there's so many theories and so many views on all that stuff. It's
and then weird. Another thing, we didn't go back to the moon from 1969, right?
Yeah.
There's theories that Buzz Aldrin, and Armstrong and all stuff, on the dark side of the moon, they saw UFO bases there. And they were warned not to come back here. I've heard that too.
Yeah, interesting.
And why would we're going to Mars, but why wouldn't we set up something on the moon?
Yeah,
much closer.
Yeah, I would just think that, me not knowing anything, I'm thinking, well, maybe there's just the ratio of air to water to whatever isn't such like on Mars, but maybe it's because of what you're saying.
Yeah, and then another thing, on Mars, there's been so many artifacts. There's like a Sphinx there. There's pyramids. There's obelisks, like in Egypt. There's so much stuff. Like there was a race there before, and they have pictures of all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was maybe totally popular at one time and popularized with some kind of human or humanoid or something, and then there were, and then there's theories like with the asteroid belt, with all the rocks, that was originally a planet. And there was a big war with these aliens and the planet blew up. And then another theory, that those humanoids from Mars came to Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago to survive. Now we're trying to go back there.
Yeah, interesting.
And there's a huge crater. It's a huge crater, like the Grand Canyon, but it's like 10 times deeper and longer. I think it's like 4,000 miles long, etched into the one part of Mars. And they don't know what did that. The only thing they could think was like a electromagnetic bolt somehow just cut through this thing.
Crazy.
And I know, wild stuff.
Where is it that they're wanting to go explore to maybe people start living? Is it on Mars? Is that where they're exploring the idea?
Yes. And then there's theories that with the rover over there, and they don't release a lot of stuff, but they've captured some aliens over there, extraterrestrials too, or a craft or a base, all kinds of stuff, So
I guess
releasing.
I guess time will tell, huh?
Yeah.
One of the things that this is going to that craft, the alien craft, and you remember I'm sure that you watched, even though you're younger than me, believe it or not. I'm sure that you watched Fred Flintstones, the Flintstones. You remember that Flintstones? Yeah. Where they had those saucers that they were all flying around in. How close are we to that?
Yeah.
How close are we to having saucers flying around? Do you know? I mean, your Corvette may seem really cool, but can you imagine? Can you imagine
UFO?
Can you imagine if you were flying around in a saucer like the Flintstones were? Were they just ahead of their time or what?
No, way ahead.
How close are we? Seriously, how close are we to being in a flying saucer? I mean, I've heard that some there's some technology out there where they're building that stuff. Are
Yeah,
they?
I have heard there's a guy, you've probably seen many interviews, this guy named Bob Lazar. And supposedly he was an engineer, scientist, quantum physicist that worked at Area 51. And he worked on UFOs that were crashed there. And he claims he saw we had a UFO, I don't know, a 35, 50 foot diameter one, that they were actually flying over there, that the Air Force figured out how to fly. And so we could have our own UFOs. And I mean, isn't it interesting? Back in the 80s, you know, our technology going like this, back in the 80s with fiber optics and all that stuff, bam, everything just went skyrocketed with computers, phones, everything. Where did we get that from? You know?
Yeah. I hate to think, you know, I've seen so many people that are on roads that are bad drivers. I can't imagine people up in flying saucers flying around. I mean, how do you stay in what lane? You're just flying around willy-nilly?
Yeah.
You know, how's that going to work, for goodness sake? I mean,
I know.
It's insane. I mean, I think the idea of it kind of sounds kind of cool. It would be maybe a better way to travel, but what kind of energy is it going to use? Is it going to be the battery, like Tesla? Is it going to be a battery like that or what?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the propulsion system, scientists been trying to figure that out for years. But like I said, it has something to do, you know, with anti-gravity, where they can figure out gravity doesn't affect them. And like G's don't affect them, the speed. Somehow they get in a void or pocket in the universe by changing their frequency vibration where there's no resistance from this dimension. And maybe they go in another dimension or however they do that. But you can see the way they fly and zigzag and all kinds of, you know, incredible things, which if you were human, that would kill you inside.
Right. I also kind of find it really interesting when I look up in the sky and I see like a group of ducks that are flying in the order, and they're going so damn fast. And I'm thinking, how is it that they don't like have these emitter screw ups there? What kind of system do they have built in to where they can fly that damn fast?
Yes,
and it seems seamless. What's that about?
I know.
Maybe they're aliens too.
Exactly. You know.
How do they do that? No, seriously, how do they do that? How do they? I have never in all my life, because I've seen a lot of these damn ducks that are flying east or west or north, whatever, and I've never seen a midair slip up.
I know.
You know? And they turn on the dime. They turn on the dime. How do they do that?
Yes. And look, fish are the same. When they go in thousands, a school of 1,000 fish, they move.
How do they do that?
Each other.
How do they do that?
Maybe. I know, it's just somehow they follow some electromagnetic
that's weird
path.
Yeah,
it is.
Weird. Anyway, I want to also talk about, this will probably be as we're sort of exiting out, but you know, I've been watching a lot of crime drama, a lot of it. You know, I'm watching one now called Flashpoint. It's on Netflix.
Yeah,
and something that is just amazing to me that I wonder how you guys that have been in the military, and this obviously applies to people that come out of the military and they end up being in a special police unit, which is what I'm watching, you know, on TV. I don't know how much of it is true, but I would imagine that a certain amount of it is when they're doing these movies, these episodes. But one of the things I wonder is how in the world can you be in that line of work? That could be military, that could be police work. How can you be in that line of work without literally going crazy at some point? Because the stuff that you see, you know, as like I said, you've seen a lot of stuff, you know, and the stuff that you see, like, I mean, I'm watching this stuff on TV and I'm getting all choked up. I mean, especially when there's kids involved, you know, type of thing. And it's like, how can you possibly withstand that emotionally? Can you really build up a tolerance enough to where you can't possibly have problems after you leave a force like that? I mean, I guess you can, but how do you do that?
You know, here's the secret. What I've found is that, you know, every religion has their major benefits and concept. But Zen, the best thing they have is called non-attachment, you know,
Yeah.
and we can experience that at a very superficial level or major level. And like these top military guys and police guys, they're in a battle and combat zone so much, they have to just cut off and not be attached to that. You know,
Yeah.
it's like if you're going to shoot somebody, you can't start thinking feelings, emotions. This person's trying to kill you, and you have to just eliminate him and not be attached to it mentally, and file that. And it's how we file that in our brain, that experience. And I mean, think about this, Leo, on the opposite extreme, how some of these terrorists, they can kill women and children, babies, and all that stuff. And then they go home to their own family like it's nothing and hold their kid and baby, you know?
Obviously they're doing exactly that.
Yeah. I mean, our brains our minds have a huge capacity, but what we file and what we put in there, you know? And I mean, look at all these Vietnam vets that came back, more infantry, and they have all these problems of PTSD and all that stuff, you know? I mean, psychological problems. Because how they filed that experience they have, what you do is you can't file it. I mean, you get a top special forces team or SEAL Team 6 commander and all that stuff. Boy, they can't let the emotions bother them at all. You know,
well, I mean,
this is a mission, boom, 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 and they take care of it.
You've even mentioned a couple times, and us talking, and you also mentioned it, I think, in a podcast, that you actually feel more normal when there's bullets flying by your head. And when you said that one time you said that, I'm thinking, I mean, do you really? But I guess you have to be, when you're in that situation, you know, obviously with a lot of reps, and I guess you have to get to that point where, because otherwise, how can you possibly perform? Because you got shit flying around your head and flying around your body all the time.
Exactly. You can't let it go to feelings, emotions, and you know, I mean, 85%. I mean, most people worry about 85% of things that never happened to them in the first place, right?
Right. That's true.
So why worry about getting shot? I mean, you're not going to do something stupid. You're going to keep covered, all that stuff, and do all the logical stuff to protect yourself, and be so concerned about getting killed or getting shot before it even happens, you know?
Yeah.
That's what these guys, they train themselves so well mentally.
Yeah. You don't realize that, you know, how much training it goes into that.
Yeah, it is. And you have to be in those situations over and over and over again to keep your mind. And this all comes from samurai warriors, you know, where your mind is immovable. It doesn't move. It's like a rock, solid, no matter what happens around us. Yeah. Nothing changes in our mind, you know, unless we let it change. There's a theory, saying from a samurai, says a real samurai will not die unless he's ready to die and accepts it.
Interesting. Now, what happens? I mean, you can speak from firsthand experience on this, I'm sure. So how do you, obviously the body, you know, what you're telling me, the way that I can relate to that in my world of bodybuilding is that the body becomes dysfunction. And that's kind of what you're saying to a degree, the body becomes dysfunction. But what happens when you leave that environment that you've come from? You've been in this jungle environment or this military environment, and you've got this filed. Okay, so you leave that environment. Now, does that never come back into your mind? You're living in a civilian lifestyle. That transition's got to be horrifying, I would imagine.
It is. It is. Because look at all the soldiers had so many problems with that, you know? Yeah. But see, all that is a matter of mentality and levels of experience. Yeah. It's almost like you have to get beyond all of that so it doesn't plug in, or you hear a car backfire and you freak out, you know, or whatever. Your mind has to be calm, taking in reality, the situation you're in at the time, you know, and you don't want to, a real warrior doesn't want to overreact. You keep your mind very cool, calm, confident, and collected, you know? Yeah. You know, that's very similar with you in bodybuilding too. You have to keep your mind just so focused and strong. Nothing affects your set or reps or thing out of it except completing it. And that's like completing that mission, you know?
And I can relate to that in a sense because I get it's like a trance like state that I get in.
Yes.
And so many people don't really understand that, you know, that are around you, you know. In fact, their response with me sometimes is, why do you take it so serious, and why are you like that, you know? And it's like, well, to me, it's kind of like I'm waging war upon myself, because when I go into the gym,
Yes,
I'm putting myself in pain, and so it's not exactly what you're talking about, but it's similar as far as where you go with your mind. You get in a trance like. Nothing can break that trance. But so what happens then when you come home, you know, from where you've been? Do you have to now slowly transition your mental state to a different state? Or because how does the stuff that even though you've put yourself in this trance-like mindset, that at some point when you're not in that environment anymore, what keeps all this from coming back and haunting you, I guess is what I'm saying.
well, see, that's the key. Like you said, if you keep yourself in that state, like you're still in combat or a crisis, you know, life and death situation, that's not going to work when you come back to society. You have to have that transition and change your mental state and lighten up on yourself. I mean, you know, me as being a bodyguard my whole life too, I'm always aware of, you know, if I open the door, if I look over here, what if this happened? What if but I've done it so much, it's like automatic. If somebody's walking down the sidewalk, I don't think, what if this guy attacks me? It's already there. If something happens, I'm ready. I attempt to be ready, you know?
Yeah. You already played those scenarios out ahead of time, is what you're saying. You've already played out those scenarios ahead of time.
All of them. You know, it's like, what if this? What if I'm in an elevator? This guy attacks me. There's three guys. What if I'm walking down the hall? I've done that thousands of times in my head where I don't have to do it anymore. You know?
It's seamless. So how do you, when you're transitioning back out, okay, so when you're going in and developing this mindset where bullets flying by, you're in a state of calmness, is that something, and you mentioned that you pretty much learned that mostly, if I understand what you said, on the job training, correct?
Yes.
So when you transition back out of that, can you transition and can you do it on the job training, or I know that they have maybe counselors that are really helping people transition from the environment that you just came from, but what happens with most guys? Do they feel weak, that they need help like that? Or
yes,
how does that all work?
They don't have the techniques and they don't have somebody to guide them that's been through it before. So they have to end up just doing it on their own.
Yeah.
It's like a boat without a rudder.
Yeah.
There's techniques, there's certain mental changes, and you have to do it in a transition. You can't just do it all at once, to keep that certain mental state. And, it's just still have to be very cool. The collecting factor is being very cool, calm, and confident. Whether bullets are flying or whether it's very calm, you're on vacation laying on a beach, but you're still aware. We're still aware 360 degrees what's happening,
Yeah, I understand that. And again, that's repetition is the mother of skill. All these things that come out, is exactly what you're talking about, because it does become automatic, But anyway, well, listen, I think that we've covered quite a bit here today.
Yes.
If there's something else that you'd like to finish with, besides your finishing with your Corvette, what kind of what kind of advice would you give somebody that's coming out that is now transitioning? Is there something? I think in my mind, one of the best things that could happen, because years ago I was thinking about actually working with people that came out of the military that were struggling with transitioning. And I thought that one of the things that might help them would be to develop a habit like working out, develop something that you're doing X amount of days a week, put them on something where they have regimen. Do you think that's something that would be some good advice? What would you say? Yeah,
exactly. But anything, it's not just the extra, but it's the mental state you keep yourself in 24/7, you know, and to practice that mental state. I mean, to give you an example, like Halloween, for years, I would go to, these scary houses where they jump out and the people,
Yeah.
you know, it's not real, right?
Right.
But I mean, most people freak out and everything. I used to go by myself, and anytime a guy would jump out or this, that, or, try to scare you, I'd try to have my feeling go in, like I'm ready for attack, and it wouldn't disturb my mind. Like, this
Yeah.
way, this way,
Right.
like you're shocked.
Right.
So I would practice that mentality, so it doesn't go to a shock and overreact, and it goes when the guy jumps up, my feeling goes in, even though in a real situation I would punch or attack him, but it wouldn't disturb my mind, you know. So that's on a bigger scale, taking life that way, the whole of life, you know.
It's
Most people overreact everything.
It's counterintuitive, and that's the thing. You know, this thing is similar about, like, for example, I work with a gal on weight loss, and in the first 2 weeks, I told her, I said, "Look, the only thing I want from you is to not question me in the first 2 weeks. Not one thing that I'm going to do to you, I want you to question me. That's part of part of the drill, so to speak. Because what I'm going to do in the first 2 weeks is so counterintuitive that you would normally fight that process. You would do exactly the opposite, kind of like what you're saying. The natural response in a haunted house would be to back up because you're scared.
Yeah.
So it's counterintuitive to do the opposite of that, and that takes takes a lot of. Not only does it take, I think, a lot of discipline, but I think it takes a lot of belief to really just say, because like I told her, I said, if you can't do that in those first 2 weeks, I'm not going to work with you because you're not going to be happy with your progress. Because you're right. I mean, subconsciously, you're going to fight that.
That human nature is so powerful, so strong, that fight or flight, everything.
Right.
You know, you have to fight all that stuff, that the way a person's experienced everything in life.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a whole below the ocean iceberg, you know, that you got to recondition and retrain.
Yeah.
And it can be a huge job. I mean, that's why karate martial arts, we have our basic sayings. You face yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Face our weaknesses, insecurities, fears, hang-ups, mental blocks. You know?
Exactly. That, because at the end of the day, it's you against you.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
Every day something, you know, and it's like a doctor practicing medicine. I mean, it's something you have to do and keep constant. Even Master Funakoshi, who invented Japanese karate, Shotokan karate, he says you have to, like you do with working out or everything, you have to keep doing it to keep it warm.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, your technique to keep it warm and attuned.
No matter how many books you read, although I like reading books because it gives you another perspective. No matter how many training partners that you have, it's you at the end of the day against you. And that's really hard to accept for most people, because what that does at the end of the day, it doesn't let me or let myself off the hook. Because so many times I know in with people that whenever they have partners or exercise partners, when they go in, the minute that partner's gone, they're gone.
Yes.
You know, and ultimately it's like, it doesn't matter if they're there or not. It's you against you. But it's too hard for most people because they need, for whatever reason, sabotage reasons, they need somebody to blame. Well, I couldn't do it because they weren't there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, I think it's in every part of every realm of our life. It doesn't matter if it's an exercise or you transitioning from the military. There's something similar about what we're talking about. And I'll tell you what, I am so lucky. I am so lucky that I became an athlete, but especially as a bodybuilder, because that taught me no matter what. I was just thinking about the other day, I had these damn strokes 10 years ago. And even when I had my strokes, when I was in a hospital, I was still working. There was nothing that was going to change what was going on. I was jacked up, but my mind was still clear. Yeah. And it was just that mindset of never caving, never giving in. And I'm so lucky that I got that training because it's
It
paid
is.
off. It's paid off in my 67 years.
But Leo, the other part about that, it's the way you took it. I'm sure martial artists, UFC guys, and bodybuilders, if they didn't take it that way and make yourself personally responsible and face yourself, they won't get it either. You know,
They sure
what
will.
you did with it.
Yeah, that's
is
a
the
good
most
point.
important thing.
That's a good point. We're going to leave it right there because that's a life lesson.
Yes.
And I tell you what, buddy, I'm really lucky and thankful that you and I connected so many years ago. I've learned a lot from you because you're worldly, you're smart, and your common sense is off the charts, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. In martial art, we have a saying like a coward dies many deaths, but a warrior dies one.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll go to war with you anytime, pal.
Oh, okay.
All right. Listen, don't do something stupid, and try to go like 100 miles an hour in reverse on the freeway just because you can in your Corvette. Don't do that shit.
Okay.
Unless you've got like 30 seconds to live, then go for it. But otherwise, I want to see you around for quite some time.
Yeah, likewise.
All right,
Me
man.
too.
Well, thank you,
buddy.
Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's an
All right.
honor and joy always.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Okay. Thank you.
Ciao. Ciao.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.